Legislative Report. I'm Anthony Tezak. Once again, the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, led by a Republican majority, passed a no-tax increase budget and sent it to the governor for his signature before the constitutionally mandated deadline. Although this was a tough budget year with unexpected revenue shortfalls, Republican leaders ensured that Pennsylvania continues to educate its children and care for those most in need. Here today to talk to me more about this year's budget is State Representative Ryan Aument. Representative Aument, welcome.
Good to be here.
Now, why don't we just get right into things. Generally speaking, can you tell us a little bit about this budget this year and what was passed?
Yes, for the fourth consecutive year, the Pennsylvania House Republican Caucus passed an on-time budget, a budget that I think protects taxpayers, that reflect the priorities of our Pennsylvania residents all across this Commonwealth, a $29.1 billion budget, a budget, as you pointed out in your opening comments, that was crafted while facing unprecedented revenue challenges, and I know we'll get into that a little later. But unprecedented revenue challenges, much of that stemming from, I think, misguided federal policy. But controlling spending to the rate of inflation as calculated along with population growth, the Tabor calculation. So I think it's a responsible budget, a budget that prioritizes education, that prioritizes the social safety net, particularly our folks with intellectual disabilities across the Commonwealth, and ultimately protects taxpayers. So I was pleased to vote in favor of the budget. There were some other pieces of legislation, pension reform, liquor privatization, and some other things, frankly, I would like to have seen accomplished at the same time, and I'm hopeful that we'll come back and deal with those things later.
And we'll talk about some of those things later. But you mentioned it earlier. We had an unprecedented budget shortfall, $1.5 billion. Mm-hmm. And amazingly, House Republicans were able to balance the budget on time and fill that gap with no tax increases. How was this done?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, we, for the last 4 years, we've led and we've prioritized protecting taxpayers. And so we've watched the revenues closely over the last year. And so the initial spend number that the governor proposed back in his budget address in February, as the revenue came in through February, March, April, May, it became apparent that the revenue was not meeting projections, and the original spend number that, as proposed by the governor, was going to need to be adjusted. And so we decided to do that in a way that protected taxpayers, that cut spending, that controlled public sector spending, that did not increase taxes.
What happened between February and July that caused such a large deficit?
Mm-hmm. Well, really what we were seeing here in Pennsylvania was the impact of misguided federal policy. First of all, revenue projections were less than anticipated due to the high cost of the implementation of Obamacare, what I have referred to as, frankly, the not so affordable Care Act. That's had a dramatic impact on Pennsylvania revenue. We've seen the loss of federal FMAP Medicaid funds that were not anticipated, so the loss of federal funding for FMAP for Medicaid. And then we've also seen the impact of an increase in the federal capital gains tax that has reduced the amount of revenue coming into the Commonwealth. So all of that combined led to a $1.4 billion shortfall based off of what had been projected earlier. And so that led to a very difficult process, but we had a process in place where the governor's folks may or may not be familiar. The governor presents his budget proposal, but that is just a proposal. We have a number of weeks where the House Appropriations Committee conducts a number of hearings. I'm a member of that committee, and so I was actively part of that process. And then the House and Senate put together a budget bill that ultimately works its way to the process and goes to the governor. And so we had the time over the last 3 or 4 months to be able to look very closely what was happening with revenue, to be able to talk to the various state agencies and take a closer look at spending and be able to cut in areas, to trim back, to right-size state government in an area where we need to be able to right-size while protecting important priorities such as education. And I think ultimately with the budget that we passed at the end of June, we were able to do that despite these challenges that we faced due to misguided federal policy.
Speaking of education, every year around budget time, we hear from everyone. We hear from the citizens, the media, and members of the legislature. And I've said it before, you are basically education's champion here in the House. Can you tell us a little bit more about that specific line item and how we're doing this fiscal year?
Well, we spend more state dollars than ever before on K through 12 education. That is the fact, and I think folks will hear various points, various things this fall, but the fact of the matter is we're spending more state dollars on K through 12 education than we ever have before, in excess of $10 billion. And so we're focusing, prioritizing young people. We're focusing on a quality of education. That's something that I've been passionate about since I've been here. Expanding choice, expanding course choice for our students, improving the quality of education, rigorous academic standards, systems of transparency and accountability around results so our families, parents, students know the facts regarding their school district performance. I think that's important. Educator quality, that's been very important to me, but also ensuring that we're making an appropriate investment in K through 12 education. And so spending more than we ever have before, in excess of $10 billion, and prioritizing that funding on students and on programs. For example, this year we have put in place a new, in addition to the Accountability Block Grant, $100 million in the Accountability Block Grant, we have a new $100 million invested in a Ready to Learn block grant as well, that gives our school districts great flexibility in the use of that funding, but directing that funding to programs, funding that program, that funding, focusing that on students. For example, an initiative that I've been actively involved in is expanding online course options for students and individualizing and customizing the learning experience for students through digital technology. And so one of the uses of the Ready to Learn grant for our school districts would be to initiate, to expand hybrid learning opportunities for their students to individualize and customize learning experience. What we've seen across the Commonwealth is there's been tremendous power in that to improve academic achievement. Students are more satisfied with the learning experience. Educators are more engaged, and so there's real power behind that. And so I'm excited about what the future holds for education in the Commonwealth, but we need to prioritize funding to ensure that our students and programs are benefiting, not education bureaucracy, and I think this budget has accomplished that.
Job creation is obviously another important piece of the budget pie here in Pennsylvania, and it's also an important issue to the House Republican caucus. And just before the final budget was passed, we learned that our unemployment rate is at the lowest it's been in 5 years. What's been done to help foster that?
Well, I think first, the approach that we've taken the last 4 years in passing budgets, fiscally responsible budgets, that right-size state government to control public sector spending, putting in place legislation that would control our growth, our capital debt growth, so where they're also controlling our debt going forward. I think the result of that has been that we have prioritized private sector job creation. I think job creators are more enthusiastic about what's happening in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They have greater confidence that we as a General Assembly are able to control our public sector spending. And so we're seeing job creators having greater confidence, who are expanding. New job creators who are coming into the Commonwealth to make significant investments here. And so I think by right-sizing state government, by controlling state spending, we're seeing that pay off by putting in place policies that are emphasizing private sector job creation, by not raising taxes on Pennsylvania families, by not raising taxes on Pennsylvania job creators, in fact, reducing the tax burden on our job creators. That's giving greater confidence to the business community and folks that are locating and expanding here. So I'm very excited about that. I also think pension reform going forward is going to be a critical issue because we also hear that from the private sector community as they're concerned about our bond rating, they're concerned about debt going forward, our expenditures going forward because of the pension crisis that we now face. I know we'll get into that issue later.
And we're actually getting ready to move into that now. There are multiple big issues that were tied into the budget negotiations this year, and quite possibly the biggest was pension. But at the end of the day, the budget was passed, but nothing was done with pension. Where do we stand on that issue?
I'm extremely disappointed that we recessed for the summer at the end of June, early July, without taking on pension reform. We actively attempted to advocate, to find the votes necessary to pass meaningful pension reform that protects our taxpayers, that protects public sector employees, and puts in place a system that is sustainable going forward. The fact of the matter is, for constituents who are not aware of this issue, we have between $45 and $50 billion unfunded liability. We have a $29 billion annual budget, just to put that in perspective. And I think that $50 billion liability is likely understated. So this is a growing problem. The Commonwealth share and our school district share of the annual contributions, the employer contributions that we have to make, and it's important to point out the employer contributions, their taxpayer contributions into the system, that number continues to rise and continues to eat up more and more of our state budget, local school district budget, compromises our ability to focus on our central mission for our school districts to actually educate our children, to expand, to put in place quality programming for their students, all because of this pension crisis. It has been legislative malpractice, frankly, over the last decade that has led us to where we are. Now is the time for real leadership in Harrisburg to make very difficult choices, but necessary choices, to put in place a sustainable system, a sustainable pension system going forward. I think the way to do that is to transition new employees, new hires into a 401k type defined contribution system, to transition away from the defined benefit system, to take the burden off the back of the taxpayers. And so I will continue to do all that I can in the time that I'm here to advance meaningful legislation that protects taxpayers, that protects employees. And so I'm hopeful we come back this summer to deal with it, frankly. I think it's a real crisis and needs to be dealt with now, certainly if not now, in the fall. And I'll continue to do all that I can to lead on that issue.
And we only have a few moments left, but in regards to the pension, if we don't take care of this now, how is this going to affect next year's budget?
Well, as I mentioned, the employer contributions continue to increase. So as you look at this year's K through 12 budget, nearly $3 billion of that $10 billion investment that we've made in K through 12 education is going towards our pension contributions. That number, that $3 billion, that number will continue to increase. So what we will see is the total investment that's actually made that would benefit schools, that will benefit students, that will benefit programs, that will continue to, there'll be intense pressure placed on that number. That dynamic is being repeated at our local school district level. And so as folks, and I hear a lot about the property tax issue, that is the #1 driver currently of increasing local property tax bills that our constituents are seeing. And so to really be able to reform property tax, which I am enthusiastic about doing, we need to control spending, and #1, we need to get this pension crisis under control and deal with it now.
All right, Representative Allment, thanks for joining us. We only have a few more session days left in this year and a lot of work ahead of you guys, so I wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
That's all the time we have for today's program. I'm Anthony Tezak. If you have any questions about what you've just seen or any other state government concerns, you can contact Representative Allment at his district office or through his website or Facebook. That information will appear in a moment. Thanks for watching, and please join us again next time for another edition of Legislative Report.